The Portal, the new recruiting frontier. These are the new additions of the SEC. Their mission? To gain experienced new players, to seek out championships and new heights, to boldly build teams like no one has before. Welcome to The Portal. This offseason, we're starting a new series to break down the entire transfer classes of each team in the SEC. We'll go player by player, looking at analytics, players' games, and their overall fit into their new team. Today, we're starting out with Alabama. The Tide brought in 4 new transfers. The emphasis from Nate Oats was pretty clear: shooting, shooting, and more shooting. The Tide brought in Houston Mallette from Pepperdine, Chris Youngblood from USF, Aden Holloway from Auburn, and Clifford Omoruyi from Rutgers. This offseason, Alabama only lost 45.5% of their scoring production from the previous season. That was the 5th smallest hit to graduation or to the transfer portal in the SEC. And last season, Alabama was an electric offense. Nate Oats brought in players who could not only replace fallen production, but continue to raise the level of offense. Last year's Alabama team finished second in the country in adjusted offense. There is currently a chance Alabama could finish with the best this year. However, all that offense did come with a cost. While Alabama was one of the best offenses in the country last year, they were one of the worst defenses in the P5. This will be the principal concern for Alabama's hopes going into next season, and the players that came in from the portal didn't add much to help Alabama's defense. Alabama's DPPR average last season was 1.3. In this portal class, Alabama only brought in 2 players above their average DPPR: Aden Holloway and Clifford Omoruyi. Omoruyi was the only player Alabama brought in with a DBPR of over 2. And to make matters a little bit worse, Youngblood and Mallette were both well under last year's Tide average, and even Mallette posted a negative DBPR while at Pepperdine. Omoruyi was crucial for Alabama to get defensively for this upcoming season. Now, point to be made: there is some room for error in that rating, because if your team stunk on defense, your DBPR is also going to take a little bit of a hit or make you look like you stink, regardless. So my quick assessment of this transfer class: the offense was sensational last year, and it could get even better this year from the additions. However, from your transfers, you're not likely to see significant gains on defense, which may remain the Achilles heel for the Tide. The philosophy seems pretty simple: outscore your opponents and improve the defense throughout the offseason and throughout the year. But let's jump and take a look at the players. Mallette is an outstanding offensive talent. This season, Mallette shot a mind-boggling 57.1% on pull-up threes and 42.7% on pull-up twos, while attempting 3.6 pull-up jumpers per game. Mallette made 36.7 of his catch-and-shoot threes on 3.9 attempts per game. He can create offense and takes very good shots. He uses step backs and shot fakes to set up his shot. He's extremely athletic and can make contested shots. He's not an above-the-rim finisher and struggles to finish through contact at the rim due to his thin frame, though, however. Now, the defense, that's a little concerning. He can be a good team defender, but he's not a player you'd identify as a primary. This is the weakest part of his game. With that said, he is capable at playing at a high level. He can navigate through screens, understands rotations. The defense might not be great, but he can be fine with the right defenders around him in a team capacity. Another scoring threat guard Alabama landed was Chris Youngblood at a USF. Youngblood was born in Tuscaloosa and is coming home to play for the Tide. His skill set fits perfectly in Nate Oats' offense. He shot over 40% from 3 this past season, a mark he's hit for 3 consecutive seasons. Across his 4-year career, Youngblood is a 39% three-point shooter. He's also a good finisher at the rim and has good size for a guard at 6'4" and a bulky 218 pounds. Before his lone season with the Bulls, Youngblood spent 3 years with Kennesaw State, averaging double figures in scoring every season. He's totaled over 1,700 points in his college career so far. The offense is certainly there, and it looks like Youngblood can be an excellent replacement for Rylan Griffin. However, there is plenty of concern on the defense. He is a better defender than Mallette, but it's fair to say he won't challenge for any Defensive Player of the Year's honors. The analytics behind Youngblood's defense reveal ratings below the standards of USF's defense last season, which was higher than Alabama's in KenPom. There should be some clear concerns if Youngblood can defend at a level needed in a power conference school. He should be serviceable in a team defensive concept, but he won't be a primary defender anytime soon. And what was the most dramatic transfer in Alabama's class? Auburn's Aden Holloway flipped over to the dark side in Tuscaloosa. Now, Aden Holloway left Tiger fans a little disappointed last season after being the team's new 5-star recruit. While Auburn fans may have wanted more out of Holloway, his numbers were fairly consistent with players like Katie Johnson and Trey Donaldson. At Auburn, he started 25 of 36 games, averaging 7.3 points per game and 2.7 assists, during a freshman campaign that saw a multitude of peaks and valleys. He had about as good of a first game as anyone could have, scoring 19 points in the season opener against Baylor. The biggest knock was the lack of consistent shooting, as Holloway seemed to have endless range, but only shot 30.2% from deep. But reminder, Holloway was only a freshman last season, and the development seems promising. Evan Mia at one point had Holloway in the top 10 transfers in the portal, with significant jumps expected in OBBR and DBBR. In other words, this could be a breakout season for Holloway if his development goes as expected. Overall, the defense is fine and will likely to continue to get better. With a year of SEC basketball under his belt, Holloway could certainly find himself taking a big jump next year under Nate Oats. This was one of the most significant signings for Alabama this offseason. With a defense that cost Alabama games multiple times last season and a need for a more developed big man, Clifford Omoruyi out of Rutgers was a must-get for Nate Oats. Omoruyi started 104 games in 4 seasons with Rutgers and averaged 10.3 points, 7.7 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks in 26 minutes a night. Omoruyi was one of the nation's best shot blockers last season, and he is an excellent rebounder. Omoruyi posted the 3rd best DBPR on Rutgers last season and was featured in 2 of Rutgers' best 4 lineups. He pairs well with Grant Nelson, who is a forward who can help stretch the floor and give Omoruyi room to dominate on the inside. Good defense, productive offense, major positional need. This was a significant get for the Tide, and Alabama fans should be rightfully happy with getting the big man they needed. Let's hit the report card for Nate Oats and the transfers. This was a good one. Alabama secured very good players, but didn't necessarily meet all the needs they needed to address. I'm giving this class a B, but make no mistake that even though this isn't an A, Alabama's overall team is still very good and should compete for the SEC title and go deep into the NCAA tournament. I just want to make it clear, in case you're a new viewer that hasn't heard some of our overall thoughts so far on the main show. If Alabama is outside the top 10 in offense on KenPom, I think that would be a bit of a shock for myself. But overall, this class did not address all of the defensive issues. Remember, Alabama became the first team in the history of the NCAA tournament to have a defense outside the top 100 in KenPom to make the Final Four. That is one of the Achilles heels for the Tide this season. And if you need a reminder of why this is a concern, look back at the Kentucky-Alabama game. You're not going to lose too many games when you score 95 points, but sometimes it happens because Alabama's defense was as solid as a wet paper bag in that game, and all it took was one good offense to make it not matter how many points the Tide scored. And if you want to know how much that swing can affect a team, look at Kentucky again. Alabama was number 2 in offense and 111th in defense in KenPom. Kentucky was number 7 and 109 in defense. One of those teams was upset in the first round. The others made a Final Four. Look at the scale of teams similar to Alabama and see the variance in results. Illinois, Kentucky, Florida, Florida Atlantic, Princeton, Iowa, and Indiana State. Offseason defensive development is my primary concern for Alabama between now and November. Hey guys, if you have not already liked and subscribed to the Hoop Southbound show, we'd greatly appreciate it. We have more episodes of the transfer portal coming up. In addition, we have our main show where we're talking hoops every week on here and the biggest stories and headlines that are going around college basketball during this offseason. So we greatly appreciate it if you guys dropped us a like, subscribed, and hung around for a little while. Next week, or actually next episode, this isn't going to be a week-by-week thing. We're talking the Arkansas Razorbacks and their very, very large transfer class that was brought in by John Calipari. We'll see you next time on The Portal.